Hello and welcome back to Walk the Cinema podcast. Today we are continuing our October month with The Most Dangerous Game. So we had both already seen this movie once before, and we wanted to pick something that felt influential again for the horror genre and just kind of in general.
Right, that's kind of how we go through October. And this, of course, is the first survival horror. So we witness here the birth of a subgenre that's become insanely popular. There's plenty of variation on it.
Yeah, because this movie is essentially about humans hunting humans or killing humans kind of for fun. And we've kind of seen that with things like Battle Royale or The Hunger Games. And those are, not exactly the same because it's more of like the government is doing it, but it still, I think, takes influence from this movie and the short story that it's based off of.
And, this genre didn't exist and it might never have been made without this. It probably would have, right? But this is probably the best example of the subgenre. Even though it's the first, it already shows all of the elements you'd expect.
Yeah.
So the plot is about... It starts with a man on a boat. He's a hunter. Some people on the boat disagree with what he does for a living. He writes about hunting, all that type of stuff. And he defends why he hunts and why it's ethical, why it's okay.
Yeah, and is even asked if he would change places with the animals that he hunts.
And he doesn't answer, just says, I don't have to.
Yeah,
because they're dead.
Yeah, they're dead. He doesn't have to think about it. He'd never be in a situation that would put him in that.
So, of course, he gets in that situation, and he gets hunted later down the line. I guess we're skipping a lot, but that doesn't matter. He gets hunted, and then he understands the perspective of the animal, which is the moral of this whole story.
Yeah. So our main character's name is Bob. And essentially his boat that he was on explodes essentially and starts taking on water and it sinks. And he is the lone survivor and he swims to the island where our Count Zaroff lives. And he is a fellow hunting enthusiast. And
he knows him. He knows his books.
Yeah. And they kind of bond.
Yeah, they discuss hunting and they discuss what makes them wanting to hunt. And then the Count explains that everything else is just kind of mundane to him. So he wants to hunt the most dangerous game, which he doesn't
elaborate that until
Bob
later.
says tigers?
Yeah.
You have tigers on the island?
And so Zaroff has a couple other people that are staying with him because their ship was also shipwrecked. And so he has Eve and her brother Martin, and then 2 sailors that were on the boat with them.
Yeah, it's Martin is so annoying, and that's what the Count also thinks. He's just there to eat and drink, doesn't even want to, he's in no rush to get out.
Yeah.
Because he has everything he wants from the Count.
He's just kind of living life, and he thinks nothing is amiss here. He's just there to party, drink, and, have a good time. But so Zaroff introduces Bob to the brother and sister, and as they're having this little get together, Eve brings Bob aside and is like, there's something weird going on here. I can't really prove it, but our crew members that were alive with us I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah, they disappeared after they saw the trophy room, which is where he has all these stuffed heads, which is the original poster.
Yeah, but we don't know that yet. They just know that he's going. As soon as they see it, they're gone. And so, Bob's like, okay, well, I don't know. This guy seems normal. He's just a hunter. And so they go to bed, but then, during the night, Eve's brother disappears. And Eve and Bob decide to go into the trophy room to see what's going on because they think that is, where the nefarious acts are happening. And they end up seeing the trophies, which are the human heads.
Yeah. And the same way that Liliati took the walk to Poland, Count Zorlov took Martin to the trophy room to kill him.
Or at least to let him run around the island to...
Well, he says that he never kills people, except for that one because he was so annoying.
Mm.
Which, fair, he was really annoying to me, too. But that was the point.
Mm-hmm. You can't just kill people, though, because you're...
No, I'm not. I don't. I don't.
But
I would not have killed him. Just want to make that clear.
They finally understand after seeing this and seeing that Martin is dead. They understand what he means by the most dangerous game. They understand that the ultimate game to Zaroff is humans. Mm-hmm. And so basically Zaroff explains that he like sets people out.
Yeah, explains the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, whatever, you're going to get hunted and killed. We also know now that the boat's crashing is no accident.
Yeah. He, like, sets it up so that they're, like, as soon as they get any more close to the island, their equipment stops working.
And he has the lifeboats or something. Not the lifeboats, but, like, the signal stuff so that they go the wrong way and they crash. So he's definitely, like, setting it up on purpose for it to happen. Yeah,
so that he can have more people to hunt. And so he tries to get Bob to join him in the hunt, because who other than Bob, because Bob has written, numerous books on hunting.
He kind of looks up to him in that aspect. He's like the world's most famous hunter.
Yeah. And so he's like, of course this guy would appreciate it, so let me get him in on this action. But obviously Bob is like, this is crazy, you can't kill people, you're a madman type thing. And so Zaroff is kind of like, well, I'm still gonna do it, and now you're my prey, so.
Yeah, and then we get the release of them into the island with all of those jungle scenes that I think most of those sets are the ones in King Kong. The movie, they were very back to back. It's one of the directors, of course, is the same. So that's a neat little link, because King Kong has survived the test of time more, maybe because of the remakes, because it's easier to have like a name to a big monster than it is, I guess, to duplicate this movie. Yeah. Even though they tried. There's plans for remakes that I guess didn't happen.
For this movie?
Yeah.
They did remake it this year.
Well, this year, but
It took them, 80 years?
Yeah. 90.
90?
Yeah, but they had plans for it, at least in the 70s, or even earlier, that didn't happen.
I feel like this would be a hard movie to remake, especially because
there's nothing to remake.
Yeah, exactly. This movie is so short, and it's pretty straightforward, and I think that people have already kind of taken it and made it better. The concept of hunting humans and stuff.
I really like this one.
Yeah.
It's simple, it's straightforward, it doesn't fool around, and it's scary at points, like when he calls the dogs out.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's when I would be like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. But essentially the rules are that Zaroff is going to release Bob into the wild, and he'll be given a hunting knife and some provisions. And then he will have the entire day to roam the island until midnight, at which point Zaroff will start his hunt. And if Bob survives until 4 a.m., he'll give him a key to the boathouse and he'll be able to leave. And so Eve wants to go with Bob, but for some reason Zaroff draws the line at killing women. So he's like, I'm not going to hunt you, but you can go with him, I guess. But I just think it's funny that he's like, I won't kill a woman, but I'll hunt the man.
That's part of hunting culture, I think.
I guess that is true.
You don't kill
the women,
the female,
or the babies.
Yeah, you're just. I guess it's supposed to make it more fair somehow, even though it's still not fair.
I guess it does mimic regular hunting rules.
Yeah.
except for the fact that, like, usually if you go out hunting, you don't give the animal, like...
An hour.
a couple hours to run around, but...
I guess it's a day that they're given to run around, but they soon find out they don't need a day. The island is tiny.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, you give me a whole day, but, like, the island is about a 30-minute walk.
Yeah, so they try to set up, like, traps, which the Count immediately sees through. But it is a nice scenery, and it's, like, kind of, like, thrilling to see him do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like a heavy thriller during that part, where you're, like, trying to figure out how they can escape this. It's like a jungle trap. It's so small, and there's nothing for them to defend themselves with besides a knife, but... it can kill you at long range, so your knife is not going to do much.
Yeah, because he has the guns. He does have guns. And so, like, as the hunt begins, there's a little game of cat and mouse, but that's really not important. I feel like it's very quick, it's not a long sequence. But essentially, Eve and Bob are trapped by a waterfall, and Zaroff kind of, like, corners them, has, like, the hunting dogs after them, and we see Zaroff shoot, and then both Bob and the dog kind of fall to, like, down the waterfall. And you don't know, like, what happened. You kind of assume that
he dies.
Bob is dead.
Well, that's what all the characters assume as well. They assume the death of the character because, we saw him get shot. We saw him fall down the waterfall.
And so Zaroff takes Eve back to the house, and is kind of like, "Look at me, I'm so great. I did it again. I killed the greatest hunter. So that makes me better than anybody."
Yeah. Sure. I mean, that's kind of the whole moral of the. It's like, oh, you're this big man because you were shooting at something that's scared of you and just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Like, it's not humble. It's not honorable.
Right. And I think that there's a distinct point I think that this is making, because it has more to do with the critique of, like, hunting exotic animals that aren't, used to eat.
No, they're just for the kill.
It's just for the kill, or, like, things that don't need to be, like, exterminated, because there are huntings where it's like you're allowed to hunt them because of overpopulation, because whatever is their natural predator doesn't exist, or there's not enough of those.
Or they were put in this location where they don't belong, and now it's a pest.
Yeah. There's
a lot of reasons for hunting.
But I think the critique of hunting in this movie and in the short story is the sport hunting, where people, because at the time the short story came out in 1924, and that was kind of when the craze to go to Africa and, like, other places where lions and elephants and stuff like that were the thing to kill, and it was like for the ultra rich to go show off their hunting skills.
And it still is.
Yeah, and it's crazy that it still is 100 years later. It's still relevant, and it's still a critique,
Like, I understand if you kill deer, you eat the deer. That's fine. That's kind of the circle of life.
Yeah.
For you. Like, that's how you exist. But hunting for sport, animals that can't really defend themselves because you're in a car, shooting at them with a high-power rifle, that's just, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And the movie doesn't either.
And so, kind of back to the movie where we kind of end up, drawing to a close. Turns out Bob wasn't really killed.
No, he shot the dog.
Yeah, and so there's, like, a ensuing fight. He essentially takes out Zaroff's henchman, and then Zaroff basically succumbs to his wounds and gets eaten by hunting dogs. So he now becomes the prey. Again, it's kind of like this circle of prey, predator, cat, mouse type thing.
Yeah, you feel powerful until you're powerless.
Yeah.
Like, when you have the upper hand, you're gloating. But as soon as you lose that upper hand, you realize that you're weak. And, I mean, it's a great movie. I still some people don't think it holds up and like it's a victim of its age, but I don't see that at all in this. It's so entertaining and short and fun and like.
Yeah, it's definitely a short movie that I think gets the job done, but I feel like I do kind of see where people are coming from, where if they wanted to watch a movie that was similar to this, they would watch those movies because it does like play it up a little bit more and like delve more into the story. But I think that this one's purer because it still maintains the critique that it wanted to.
Yeah, I like that. I like it pure. It's straightforward and it does its message. Well, a lot of movies now, sure, they might be more thrilling, maybe more violent if you're into that, scarier.
Yeah.
But do they have a message? Are they trying to accomplish something new like this did?
Right.
And that doesn't make it a better movie just because it's new and the other ones aren't. Like, you're going to reach a point where you're going to be redoing the same things and trying to tweak it.
Yeah.
But this was doing a new thing while trying to pass on a message.
And I think it still has some elements that are kind of really scary. Like you said, there's the scene where he releases the dogs.
Yeah,
and like,
it's like, what is he gonna do now? And he's like, get the hounds, and they just run out, and you're like, he's screwed.
And if you've ever been like charged by a dog that you're unfamiliar with, you kind of know how terrifying that is. Because I love dogs so much, but if you see a big dog coming at you that you don't know, like you don't know if they're friend or foe, and in this situation you kind of already know that they are foe and they're going to try to kill you, and like that's a scary situation to be in because of like you as a human can't really do anything. Yeah. To a wild animal or just an animal in general. That's
that would be the scariest part for me for sure, when the dogs just rush you after all that fighting.
Yeah. And then the other scary part is when you see the trophy room and you see all the heads of like people. That would be creepy and scary.
Those heads, those like trophies are in the original poster, which is kind of a dead poster now. I have it because you gave it to me.
Yeah.
So I have a big poster of the original theatrical release. But now it's more of a standard poster where there's the title, they're running away from him, whatever.
Yeah.
But the trophy one is so, like, it just stands out to me so much. Because, like, you know what's going to happen. And I guess maybe that's not the greatest if you don't know the movie. Like, it's a spoiler.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's at this point, it's 90 years old, so.
It just stands out so much. It's like, yeah, there's a room full of heads. Like, that's so creepy. And the Count himself is not incredibly creepy, and that might be due to its age.
Yeah. I feel like, I agree. Because, like, at the time, just having a Russian man.
Yeah, it's
was
scary.
Kind of
it's still kind of scary.
Yeah, usually. I don't know. There's, like, there's still movies out there that, like, as soon as you need a villain, they're like, give him an accent.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, this kind of did that.
Yeah.
It's not like I can, like, it's, oh no, they did it for a reason. Maybe they did, I don't know, but it's still, I don't think so. It just kind of works that way, where a lot of old-timey villains are, even now, they're just foreigner, they have an accent.
But this was the first, like, I think this was the first film adaptation of The Most Dangerous Game, the book, or the short story. There were several that, aren't called The Most Dangerous Game that were influenced by it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But this is definitely the first one, to my knowledge.
This story has been done a lot. Earlier I said it hasn't been remade. It hasn't been remade, like, as a namesake, which I guess by now it has. But I meant more as, like, a franchisable name. A recognizable name, the way King Kong is. Yeah. Even though this story has probably been made more often than King Kong. It's just different name. It's like kind of all like blurs out.
Yeah, and I mean like the non-direct movies that kind of come from this, where it's like, sure, Battle Royale isn't the same thing. It's not like critiquing the same thing.
No.
But it still takes the premise of, okay, like what if we just started killing children as like a punishment? Right. Made them hunt each other. Yeah. To survive.
Make them the victims.
Yeah.
They have the power of killing each other, but they're powerless to the system.
Right. So even if they don't want to kill each other, they have to in order to survive. which is kind of, you know.
It's a slightly different approach, but it is inspired. I understand what you mean. It's inspired by the small location where you don't really have a way to escape. You're just being played with.
Yeah, and it's all the same, like, you know, even like the island setting is still the same.
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, in Battle Royale and then, you know, kind of subsequently the Hunger Games, you get sent on this island and then, like, they kind of change the rules of the island depending on where you are. So in, like, Battle Royale, they have, like, you know, different...
They have areas that they can't be in.
Yeah. And the same thing with, like, the Hunger Games, where, like, each quadrant at certain times will, like, start spewing acid rain or like have a swarm of bees.
Yeah,
you know?
This one doesn't need to go that extreme because it's so much.
It's much
grounded.
Simpler. Yeah.
But it works super well for me.
Yeah.
I guess if we're rating it now, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Super solid. I love it so much. Mm-hmm. I understand it's not the greatest movie ever. Obviously, it's too short and simple to be overcomplicated, but it achieves everything to a perfect simplicity.
Yeah. I would say that I like it a little bit less. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I think it's still important to kind of view, and it's definitely one of those things that if you're watching horror movies to watch horror movies, this one isn't very scary, but it's at least compelling.
I mean, if you're watching horror movies because you just like horror movies for different reasons, it doesn't matter. If you're looking into the story of horror, the just how far back it goes, this is, of course, you got to make your way through this one, but like it's not going to be the greatest movie of all time. I don't think.
No.
I don't think it's necessarily something important to watch as a story or for the techniques or anything like that. But as history, it is an important film.
I agree. But I think that's all that we have for this episode. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next horror movie.